Okay guys, so today I'm going to be doing a video on my top 5 everyday carry items, and starting off I'm going to say, I know people are going to wonder why my phone's not in there, why my phone's not in there, why my wallet's not in there, and I'm going to try to get through this quick. I don't consider those parts of my everyday carry. They are parts of my everyday carry, but I don't consider them, I don't know, items, so to speak. Like, the people have different definitions of everyday carry and the things that they are, and for me, I consider that the everyday carry items, are the things that you choose to carry to be practical. My phone and my wallet, to me, they're like my clothes and my glasses. I can't go anywhere without them. I have to have my phone because that's my way to communicate with other people, and yeah, that's what I do with that. And my wallet, I need that because that's my identification. So yeah, that's the reason why they're not in here. So yeah, if you think that they should be part of this, this top 5, then you can make your own video, but that's the way I see things. So let me get on to this. We're gonna go from most important to least important, I suppose. So what I would say is the most important is actually the flashlight. You guys might be surprised. You'd think that I'd say knife, but actually I think it's the flashlight. For emergency and just useful, just everyday stuff, flashlight is just very useful to have. You drop something, it's easy to just it's easier to have a flashlight and look for those sort of things. Those are the important things, right? And yeah, and if you're stuck in a situation where you get in a blackout and you have a flashlight, that blackout is no issue to you. And the reason why it's top over a knife or a pen is because if you have a flashlight, if you don't have a flashlight and you're stuck in a blackout or something like that, this is the thing that I want to have in most emergency situations, because illumination, being able to see things, especially in the dark when you're walking out at night or something, it's always best to have a light, because the light is what's going to keep you out of trouble, and it's going to keep you out of any circumstances where you might need to come into a confrontation or something like that. So that's why a flashlight is so important to me, and that's why I needed to get one as soon as possible after I found out that I lost my my other light. So that's the number 1. So what I have next, I would say, is number 2 would be the pen. And I know a lot of people will be surprised by that it would usually be the knife, but I find that the pen I end up using it a lot more than a knife. And yeah, it's since I'm a student, I write down a lot of stuff, so a nice pen is definitely number 2 in my list, just because it's something that I always use, and I just end up liking pens now. So yeah, that is my number 2. And number 3 is the knife. Doesn't particularly have to be a knife like this. I'd say what I would categorize, I'd say a main blade, and this Victorinox right here, I'd say it's a good candidate for a main blade, but you might consider this a multi-tool. So I would say, yeah, main blade, like something with a 3-inch blade to 3.5 inch. That's usually my spot for a good everyday carry primary folder, like this one, this squid. It's under the 3 inches, but it's a good enough size for me. But yeah, so a knife is the 3rd most important for me to have in my carry and to have in my pocket on my person on a day-to-day basis, because you never know when you're going to need to cut something. And you can also categorize these things by things that you can't reproduce, very easily. A flashlight, that's the reason why it's so important, is just because it's hard to reproduce a light in a dark situation, and just making something and you can't see it. So that's why it's always important to have one of these. It's the reproducibility. As for a pen, it's probably easier to find a pen than a knife is, but I do end up using a lot more, so that's why I consider that more important than a knife. And a knife, it's more important than these two, which I'll get to. So the 4th item is, of course, some place to write on with the pen. The reason why this isn't number 3 is because it's easier to find something to write on than it is to find something to write with. As same thing for cutting, or with flashlight. You'll find yourself more in a dark situation than you are going to be able to find something to illuminate the room or something when you're in one of those situations. So yeah, just a field notes pad, somewhere to write things, write just things to remember. And I really love this thing. Just write all the ideas, things that I feel. And yeah, that is number 4. Number 5 would be the watch. This is a Seiko automatic. The reason why this is number 5 is because it's not super important for me to be able to tell the time on my wrist. I always end up looking at my phone anyway since I always have it. But it's always nice to have one of these in case your phone does run out of battery. So yeah. So that's my top 5 everyday carry items. If you have your own list, maybe you can make a video response to this or leave a comment on what you carry, because I'm interested to hear what other people have and their reasons for carrying those things. So you can leave that there. And I thought for an extra, because this video is a little short, maybe I'll talk about podcasts. So if you don't care for podcasts or whatever, you can leave the video now. But yeah, if you want to stay for podcasts, then let's start. So over here on my iPhone, I have a Overcast app because I just don't like the Apple Podcast app. Let's put the brightness down. So these are podcasts I listen to. I haven't listened to Art of Manliness, Knife Thursday lately, or Louder with Crowder. I'm meaning to get back into them, but the ones, my favorites in this list are the Black Tapes podcast, TiS podcast, and Limetown. So talk about Black Tapes and TiS. So they're both podcasts about paranormal or supernatural type stuff. That's what I'm finding myself liking these days. Even in comics, I just like them a lot. Same thing with Limetown. It's also a fictional supernatural or paranormal type story, and those are really well done. And yeah, I really like those. Black Tapes just finished their first season, so there's no new episodes coming out soon, I don't think. And then TiS, it just started up, but it's bi-weekly, so there's no new episode this week. Next week there's gonna be an episode. Can't wait. Yeah, I really love that podcast. Can't wait for that one to continue. And Limetown is a podcast that's I believe it's also bi-weekly, but they do not update this very much, I've been reading. But yeah, that's a really great podcast. It's they're all really intriguing stories, but if I would rate them, I'd say Black Tapes, TiS, and then Limetown. Some other paranormal, supernatural podcasts I've been trying out. I tried We're Alive just a little bit. I listened to some of that because I just got it recently. I put the brightness up, I guess. Oops. Sorry about that. So, listen to Lore a bit. Lore is, it's pretty nice, and it's well laid out, very professionally done. My only thing about it is it's not creepy enough for me. Usually I'm not really good for scary stuff, but Lore's a little too informational for me. But I mean, it's good to listen to in the background when you're writing stuff, or if you're cooking, I guess. Knife Point Horror is also a little bit of the same, but it's a little more scary, and I like it more than Lore. So I like that one. And yeah. So I've been listening to Night Vale. Very good podcast, very fun. And yeah. So that's what I've been having as podcasts. If you have any podcast suggestions for some stuff that are maybe paranormal or stuff just it's very interesting, please leave it in the comments. I'd like to know. Would like to check out some more podcasts. And if you're into paranormal podcasts, and if you haven't heard of Black Tapes, TiS, or Limetown, you should definitely check them out. Anyways, that was the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, please like, favorite, subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this, like my videos, but in picture form, then check out my Instagram at HansBoyardee. That's at HansBoyardee. And you can find all sorts of stuff there. Knives, watches, lots of field note pictures, pocket dumps, all sorts of stuff. So anyways, thanks guys for watching.